Kia ora, good evening. Happy New Year, everyone. Gosh, I felt like to have a chat. New year, new me, new everything. So I thought I'd just make a podcast and just do a wee chat. Now, I might have to pause because I'm expecting a knock at the door. A pal's popping over, but I'll be back. So I might have to pause it for a little bit. And also you might hear alerts go off on my phone because I'm talking to my boy. So yeah, I don't know if you've been looking at my social media with the products that I've just put out, my bubbles and my cleansing clay. I've just put the finishing touches on them, and I made my music box little video, and it got me thinking about my dad. It got me thinking about everything, like where all of this began. And it started with my dad. And it's quite poignant actually because it's coming up to the anniversary of his death. 10th of January. He crossed away in 97. 10th of January 97. I had to think about it for a minute because Laurie died in 91. He died in 97. And even with me thinking about the time I saw him have that time jump when I was like 6 years old. Oh, in that photo you think, bloody hell, she was 6, I was a C cup. I was 6 years old and I was a C cup, bruh. Oh, bless. Oh, God. Oh, it's like if God was going to make the biggest weirdo on the planet, he made her 6 foot tall, who was so fat at one point she looked like an apple. But her boobs would be the thing that stands out. I am Indigenous, I am Arab, I'm Māori, I'm Arab, I'm Scottish, I'm Irish, I'm Spanish, there may be some Greek and Jewish in there, and I'm Egyptian, I'm North African, I'm friggin' everything, I'm a white-skinned black blood. God, I'm so white. I'm so unbelievably white. If you hold my hand up to the sun, you can see through my skin. You see my bones and everything. That's how white I am. I'm so white, I'm transparent. But I'm so proud of what my ancestors made of me. Because I worked hard to get here. I worked hard to be me. I sacrificed a lot to be me. the new me, the purified me, the one who after 51 years has suddenly learned to say no to people, who is brutally honest. See, because when I was growing up, I couldn't be me. I wasn't allowed to be me. My parents were afraid of people finding out what we all were. Every single one of my brothers and sisters were like me, just in, different variations. We were like atoms. We were made up of all different particles that, together made a big giant force of Callahan energy. And it was at a time when you didn't talk about this stuff. And you certainly didn't talk about, what we were able to do as Indigenous people. The magic side of it, the supernatural side of it, let alone the fact that, we were all seeing spirits and, having our dreams and, being able to use natural things to heal ourselves and that, like, that's just the life everyone in my family knew. My mum taking washing to the river sometimes to wash at the river. I used to love doing that sort of stuff. She was always in bare feet. And I think about how she raised 7 kids on her own, because my dad was always away with the army. And when he was home, he was always tired, and on a Friday he'd go out drinking, and, then he'd be hungover on Saturdays, and my mum was raised in a violent household. My grandfather, her father, was vicious. He was brutal. He was jealous of my nana because my nana was a beautiful descendant of mighty queens and princesses, and, she was tall and graceful and beautiful, and he used to beat the living daylights out of her. And all my mum's brothers and sisters, he broke my mother's jaw just before she was to marry my dad, because she said, I'm going to the movies with George, instead of may I go to the movies with George. And he punched her in the jaw and broke her jaw. And unfortunately, she passed that on to her children. Not like punching them in the jaw and breaking them in the jaw, but, us kids, we got the jandal, we got the jug cord, we got the wooden spoons, the hair pulling, all that sort of thing. And with my poor dad, it was even worse. His brother was murdered after he got back from World War II, and he was murdered because he stopped these Fijian men from raping a woman. There were 7 Fijian men trying to rape a woman, and he saved her life and beat them up. And so they, I don't know if it was that night or later on, like days, weeks later, they jumped him and pushed him down a flight of stairs, and he broke his neck. I don't know if he was stabbed, but I know that he fell downstairs and, broke his neck and cracked his head open, and, he was murdered. And he had a twin brother, and I think, I don't know, he was horrible to my dad. He used to starve him. He used to lock him in the cupboard with his hands tied behind his back, like 7, 8 years old. My poor dad would be locked in a cupboard overnight, terrified. And I always remember him and I had this conversation like 6 months before he died. And he said that he remembers sitting in that cupboard saying to himself, when I have kids, I'm never laying a hand on them. And he never did. I got one whack from Dad, but it didn't even hurt, but I pretended to cry. My sister Erin and I were talking about that the other day. But I deserved it. I utterly deserved it. That poor man was marking papers for some exams for, his boys, because my dad was a SAR major, and he was marking papers. He might have been a sergeant back then, but he was marking papers, and he said he had been saying for days, when I've got to mark these exams, I need total silence. You cannot make a noise. And we're like, yep, that's fine. And he kept saying it for days, and he kept reminding us, and now the papers are here, so I need you girls to be quiet. And we weren't quiet, and he told us and told us and told us, and we didn't listen. And so it's the one and only time my dad ever laid a hand on me, and it didn't even hurt, and it was on the side of my thigh, and I pretended to cry, but I utterly deserved it. I know now as an adult, with the physics that I do, with the work that I do with my products, how intense it is to need that kind of concentration, where the slightest slip up could cost someone their life, their career, their future. That's a lot of responsibility. I think my uncle Sonny's murder is the reason why Dad was obsessed with unsolved murders. And he passed that on to me. He had an uncle who was a homicide detective called Harry Callahan. And his death made the paper, so he must have been someone. But I think I definitely get all of this from my dad. I remember when he came back from the Solomon Islands, he was given these masks by the chiefs, from the tribal chiefs in the Solomon Islands. They gave him these war masks or something, and he hung them up in the hallway. And I was terrified of them, man, because I used to hear voices coming out of them, like they were talking. They were made of trees, and the teeth were made out of turtle shell and all that, and I used to hear them talking. Like I could hear them talk, like it was like the wood part of it had recorded a conversation that was had, and that conversation was playing back to me, because they weren't speaking English. So I don't know what they were saying, but they were talking really fast. There was like almost like a sense of urgency or panic about the conversation they were having. And then one day my sister Erin and I came home from school, and Mum wasn't there, and we were sitting on the porch, because we sat on the porch for hours because we were too scared to go into the house, because those masks were talking. And then when we were starting to get scared, one of them jumped off the wall, and we screamed and ran out of the house, and we wouldn't go back into the house. And I was even younger than the whatever incident. I was maybe five or six, but I remember it so well. and it always stuck with me. And then when my dad's best friend, Johnny, died, Uncle Johnny, he was somewhere overseas training, and he was going for a jog, and he got run over by a jeep. And then one of my dad's other friends, Uncle Chris, was one of my dad's boys when I was growing up, and then I watched him grow up, and he ended up, training boys and that, and he was giving, teaching the boys how to throw the grenades. And he got a left-hander, and the kid threw the pin and held the grenade, and my Uncle Chris pushed the kid out the way, took the grenade, pushed the kid out the way, and jumped on it, and it blew him to bits, but he survived. And he was a hero. And I got to grow up around men like that, who were so respected by native tribal chief clansmen that they were presenting him with hammerhead sharks on the beach. They literally presented my dad with a live hammerhead shark as a gift to say thank you, because hammerhead sharks on that side of the world are like gold. Unfortunately, the totemic value of a hammerhead shark is like, having a vault of gold to Polynesians, and that they're highly, highly prized, highly sought after creatures, and they presented him with one, and he thought it was dead, and it started flapping about, and he told them they were crazy, and ran off down the beach. And that, I grew up with those sort of stories about hearing about how my dad was so respected by people that, when he died, there were busloads of men, soldiers, all in uniform. Some of them had never even met him, but they went to his funeral because they'd heard about the myth, they'd heard about the man, and that was so cool. My dad passed the SAS training twice. I didn't know that he had qualified for the SAS and passed the test twice until after he died. But that was my dad. And he might not have been around a lot, but his legacy has stayed with me forever. Because the stories I have heard about that man are worthy to share with people, because all the stories that I heard about my dad are the reason why I am the woman I am now as an occult scientist, why I want to cleanse battlefields and places where there's been war, and because that was my dad's life, that was my life. I got to see these people, and I've got their blood in my veins, like my Uncle Harry, and how brave my Uncle Sonny was, and how I had uncles who were in the Māori battalion, man. They are always consistently in the top 10 and mostly top 5. And I know in the encyclopedia, top 1. Most respected army battalions in the world, known for being fierce warriors. People were terrified of them. The Germans thought they were demons because they ate them. there, we did a bit of cannibalism back then still, but it's like what a rich tapestry my life is, and all the threads that have gone into, you know, making me. Everything I've been taught, everything I've learnt, and it's like, I always say in my career, when I have sat with people who are dying, I always say to them, if you had anything to say to the world, what would you say? What do you want to say? And every single one of them, without fail, would say, don't die with regrets. I've been like a priest. I have heard thousands of confessions of people who, told me of their regrets in that, like, moments, hours, days, weeks before they died. Because a lot of people in my career, they come to me and want to know what their death is going to be like. Or, I will literally sit with them while they're dying, especially in my culture. When someone's dying, we all take care of them and we walk them to the afterlife. Yeah. And so it's like, I've spent the last few years paying off a lot of those regrets. Yeah, just as an occult scientist, with everything that I've learned, with the science that I have developed, and, all of that, trying to work out scientifically how all of these things were possible. All of these things that I witnessed, all of these things that I grew up knowing and experiencing and seeing, through other people like my dad and that. I just had a brain that needed to know why. Why did it happen? How did it happen? And I've spent my entire life trying to figure out why and how. And unfortunately, I was born with a brain that absolutely can't do maths. I have like a maths dyslexia or a maths autism. I can remember freakishly long sequences of numbers, like bank cards and, account numbers and long numbers and stuff like that. I can remember it like that. Absolutely not a problem. But like, I'm worse than like a finger counter when it comes to maths. Like, it's like all the numbers are higgledy-piggledy. But I ended up stumbling into physics completely by accident, having to figure out what the hell was going on a subatomic particle level, but not being smart enough to do the maths and that. So I knew my ancestors were talking to me. I knew Papatūānuku was talking to me. I knew Ranganui was talking to me, and Tāne, and, like, I knew that Maui, I knew they were all talking to me, trying to teach me things that I knew I was going to have to explain to the world one day. And I was never going to be like Professor Brian Cox, where I could just, take a piece of chalk and put it all in numbers and that. So it's like they taught me how to do it through language, through writing. It's my codes. That is my, biometric frequency. I do physics using language because I can't do maths, because there's, how do I explain it? The universe doesn't exist on numbers. It exists on energy. And when I try to put numbers to the physics that is the language of the universe, it just doesn't compute. I mean, I do chemistry, that's the kind of maths, and I bake, you have to use maths with that. So I know that I'm not like brainless. It's just when I try to put numbers to time jumping and the way that the universe communicates with me, it's not through numbers. It doesn't work. It makes no sense. It makes me get everything wrong. But when I put language to it, it just flows, because language is frequency. Language has a tone and a pitch and an energy and an emotion behind it that mass doesn't have. And the universe only communicates through a transference of energy. And it's my frequency. And then I get to listen to that frequency, and my brain turns it into codes. And it's like the particles around me and the particles coming out of me and the particles coming into me all converge and translate that into what it is I have to say, or what it is I need to create, or what it is that I need to do to fix you. And it's helping people, and it helps them in the most magnificent ways. So it's like, if I've got to make a fool of myself in front of these professors and scholars and all of that sit looking behind closed doors, mocking and all of that, and then people calling me crazy, because I try and explain something, and they're so not even on the same wavelength as me that their replies are just like such a retarded way of thinking. And I don't mean retarded in the way that the word retarded means closed or stop. The old, like you used to turn the handles on the Navy ship doors and they'd say open and retarded. So I'm talking about like they stop themselves from thinking logically, or that sort of thing. I don't understand people at all. I don't get people at all. I've spent my whole life studying human behaviour, which obviously now I know was a good thing. Just trying to understand the way people function, because they don't make sense to me. Like, people waste their entire lives being jealous and bitchy and fake, nice to your face, horrible behind your back, gossiping, plotting, planning, scheming. And I'm not talking about, just on a personal level, I'm talking about in general, out there in the world. And some of these people are people in positions of power with prestigious professions. They rule companies, rule the world, rule the media, rule music and that, and they just lie constantly to your face. And they don't even care that they know that people know they're lying. It's like narcissism used to be a very rare diagnosis, and now it's like every single other person seems to have it. I don't understand how these people aren't exhausted, how their conscience isn't eating them alive, because the conscience is always pure and honest. It's the subconscious that makes us do the dark devilish things. And the conscience looks at all of the lies in that and is like, why? Why are you doing this? Like, and then it makes the conscience feel guilty. And we can carry that guilt on to our next lives, which is why all the dying say to me that the message to the world is don't die with regrets. Because you don't want to get to the end of your life and say, why didn't I just tell her how I felt? All I had to do was tell her I loved her. All I had to do was try for that audition. Even if I didn't get through, even if they laugh in my face, I got to try and go for that role on Broadway. I've got to try and sit that exam. I've got to try and be a hairdresser. I've got to try and have my own business, because if I don't, if I keep listening to the voice in my head that is fed, by other people's jealousies and their own fears, because, just because they won't do it, they're now going to talk you into not doing it as well, and I remember talking to this one woman years ago. She was dying, she was terminal, and when I was asking her, any message that you want to share to the world, she said, don't die with regrets. And I said to her, everybody keeps saying that. And I said to her, do you mind telling me what your regrets are? Are they anything that you can do now before, it's time? She said, I only have one regret. She said that it was that in the 1930s, she said it was just at the start of the war, she met a beautiful black man, and she just thought he was the most beautiful thing, and they were in love. Like she knew they were falling in love, and then he was being sent to Germany. He was being sent out, and he went to kiss her goodbye, and she wouldn't let him kiss him. She wouldn't let him kiss her, because she said, if I'm lucky enough and things change in the time that he's gone, when he comes back, hopefully you can kiss me on our wedding day. She was a white woman, and she was hoping that in the time that he went away to fight in the war, there wouldn't be a thing, segregation and, that sort of thing was frowned upon back then. And she was hoping things would change, so she refused to kiss him, because she was adamant that things would change, and that when he got back, because, African Americans would be seen, black people, Māori battalions, black men would be seen as heroes for doing their part, for risking their lives in that. And so surely it was going to end segregation and racism and all of that sort of thing. And he went away to war. He said, I'll hold you to that. So she waited for her first kiss. She waited for him to come back from war, and he never came back. So she never got to have her kiss. And that was, I'm going to get emotional. That was her one regret, is that she never got to kiss that black man. That's what she said. Not, that's not what I did. She was trying to play hard to get. And it became her one dying regret. She married and had children. She loved her husband. Her husband loved her. They were very happy. She had a good life. But she said that in the back of her head, for the rest of her life, she always wondered what it would have been like if she just let him kiss her. And I've lived with that ever since, and I tell people that throughout my entire career now, don't die with regrets, because we know with what's happening in the Ukraine and Russia and Israel and Palestine and, all these other countries, with COVID and all the deaths with that, and the deaths that came after, the plane crashes and the submarines sinking, and you don't know when your time is up. You don't know. We're not all going to be lucky to, hop into bed and go to sleep and wake up the next day. Sorry, I mean, we're all not going to be so lucky enough to go to bed and die in our sleep and not wake up the next day. And in my career, I have seen and heard more deaths than you can ever possibly imagine. I've experienced, with time jumping as well, I've experienced and seen more deaths than you can ever possibly imagine. I swear, I know what it's like to die in every kind of way. Because I'm a visual thinker, because that's my brain does maths through thinking and translating that into language. When it comes to my physics of, quantum magnetics and time jumping and that. And so I'm a visual thinker. So every time I hear a story, every time I listen to something, every time I hear the talking, I instantly see it in my head. And it's like I'm living the experience. I had experiences when I was a kid that I found out as an adult weren't even my own experiences. That they were experiences that, members of my family had, but I was there. I could have sworn it was me. Like the day my mum got the letter from Scotland to say that her cousin Catherine had died. She was the last living Fraser in Scotland, who she's buried at our family cemetery, Boleskine Cemetery. And when my mum died, I put a bench there, and Catherine's buried there. And she used to write to my mum, and she died. And the story is that my sister got the letter, and she was only very young, and she came in the house and she said, "Mum, Catherine's died." And Mum was like, "What?" And she said, "Catherine's died." And Mum was like, "What are you talking about?" And then she opened the letter, and it was to say that Catherine had died. I swear to you, I remember walking to the mailbox, but it turns out I wasn't even born yet. And I couldn't understand it, but now I understand it because it's time jumping. And anything, more than a second ago is it's historical. Every second that goes by, that's history being made. So it doesn't matter whether it happened a second ago or 100 years ago or, a million years ago. When I see it in my head, when I hear the story and read the article or see the thing, or like I see it in my head and boom, I'm right there. And I can walk around it and I smell it. Like I can't even begin to tell you the amount of blood I've smelt in my life from, visiting crime scenes and that in my head. Or, when I've been asked to work on cases and that. I know the smell of dried blood. Oof. But we were never allowed to talk about these things outside of the home, because it was at a time where there would have been a witch hunt. We would have been outcasts. And my parents cared about what people thought of them in those days. My dad had a reputation. You know, my mum had had to put on the nice face to everyone, hiding the fact that she was, whacking her kids and stuff. But she was very graceful. She was a beautiful, elegant, graceful woman when she was outside of the house, outside of us kids. But we always knew she loved us. It's weird that. It's a big thing with Polynesian families where the mother will give them hidings and that, but she's like, the most revered. I don't understand that. I think it's just because we all know that they came from something bad and it wasn't their fault that they were broken. And that, people like me that had these spiritual awakenings and then ascensions and stuff, it was like I made a mental note to myself, this is a lesson, this is something I'm never ever to do with my own children. Just like my dad in that closet, I'm never going to lay a hand on my kids. And I never did. And I broke the cycle. So I got to pay off that karmic debt for my mum and dad, for my nana, for my aunties and uncles, all of that sort of stuff. And then with my own domestic abuse situation, I had to make the decision to either shut up and put up with it until I was able to, get the money and the career to get me and the boys out, or I was to run like hell and let God handle it. Because when I got that download, when I realised what he'd done to me that night, I had a split-second decision of what to do. Just go along with it and pretend like I don't know what he's doing, and then hope and pray like hell I got the business off the ground, or, I got money from the lawsuit from the Air Force and Air Force and Army and all of that with the phone hacking, that was all suddenly going to, work itself out and then we could leave. Or do I pick up my camera and start talking, not knowing why the hell I was making videos, not understanding why didn't I just call 999. I just knew that voice in my gut was saying just keep recording, because one day it's going to save your life, like it's going to save your ass. It's going to be what proves your innocence. So just don't question it. Just every time we tell you to hit record, hit record. Every time we tell you to write, start writing. Every time we tell you to, look at this video or study that murder, just do it. Just don't question it. Just have faith that we know what we're doing. And you just have to trust us. And never stop telling your boys, don't forget one day this is all going to be over. And we get to walk away and have a new life. And so I made the decision to pick up my phone and hit record. And because he had hacked my phone, it wasn't allowing me to upload. It was like every time I tried to upload, it would suddenly jump up to like 3 hours for like a 20-minute video. Even though we were sitting right by the Wi-Fi, even though I had it on my own, because I have unlimited internet, unlimited Wi-Fi and that. So I used my phone's Wi-Fi, and it was still, saying 3 hours, and I didn't know what to do, because I knew I had to get this video out. I knew I had to get these videos out, and that's when my son Thomas jumped in. And he said, use my phone. And then after a couple of uploads of videos, his phone started doing the exact same thing. And we were saying it's because they've hacked our phones. They're trying to stop us from getting these videos up because they've hacked our phones. And I mentioned it in one of the videos, and then it kind of stopped. And then after he got me locked up, the first thing he said after the police had gone was, are your phones okay? Your phone's working all right? Are your phones good? And my boy said that was a really weird thing for him to say. The boy, they would try and record videos, and it would say that their SD card was too full and that they'd have to delete stuff off their phone, but they had plenty of space still left on their phone, so they couldn't figure out why it was doing it. But of course now we know, because, if you know, I found the second SIM card on my phone and, all that sort of thing, and I caught them hacking my phone, and it's all up on my X account and, all my social medias and that, because I just kept doing what I was told to do: take photos, take recordings, hit the button, do, but. And then it all fell into place, and then next thing I know, I had all this evidence. And I was like, oh my God, I was telling the truth about everything. Every single thing that I said they were doing, I have now proven I was right about everything. So that's my Uncle Harry Callahan jumping in there, the detective skills. Oh my God, I love what I do so much. I wake up every day with that warm feeling in my gut, knowing that I get to do what I'm about to do. And it's just like an engine in me. It just drives me to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Like the little engine that could. I think I can, But with me, it's like, I know I am. Because I'm that determined to finally do what I was put here to do, because I'm no longer afraid of what people think of me. Because that was my parents' demon that they put onto me, and I carried that burden around with me my whole life, and it didn't even need to be there. I just had to learn to not care about what people thought of me, because people are always going to put labels on you when they can't understand you. But that's not your fault. That just means they're not on your same wavelength. But I wear the dork badge with honour. I am weird. I'm a nerd. I am a recluse. But just because I don't understand people, I'm not great around people, because I know what they're thinking. I know when they're lying. I know when they're saying things to my face that are out and out blatant lies, even if I only just met them for the first time there and then. I will know if he's having an affair. I will know if she's watching porn in the bathroom in her office, and I will know. And yet I stand there and watch them lying and pretending, trying to impress, or trying to overshadow, or trying to knock down, or trying to appear better than. And I just know. And the old me would have just put up with it, and put up with it, and put up with it. And then it's slowly making me resent them, to the point where I couldn't stand to be around them anymore. And I had to get them out of my life, because I couldn't stand. It was like, magnets clashing. And I always thought, there was something wrong with me. Why don't I keep friends for too long? Why am I always fighting in my relationships? Why am I, always unhappy in the jobs or the training or why? Always asking why. I thought it was me because I was told my whole life it was me because of people saying, you never be, so you absorb it and you take it on like it's your own, and you have those dark days where you don't want to get out of bed and you just don't want to be around people anymore because it just gets too much. And then you're told by society and you're told by doctors that that's abnormal, and it's not. It's being wise because there's something going on that you need to be avoiding people, but because your subconscious mind has always been taught to believe that if you keep losing friends and relationships, and that it's got to be you. It can't be all of them, sort of thing. But it's not that at all. It's not you at all. It's because these people weren't meant to be in your life in the first place. And God and your gods, or God, whoever you believe in, and your ancestors become that protective barrier that starts pushing all the people who aren't on your frequency away, or the people that don't deserve to be in your life will get moved away. So never ever take that personally. When someone gets removed from your life, when you see the truth of someone, and then they get removed from your life, don't question it. Just thank your ancestors because they're doing you a favour, because they're saving your life, because the more you're around people that pull you down, the more gravity takes over, the heavier atoms become. It starts pulling on your physical body, so then you start putting on weight, you start getting joint pain, because you're becoming like too magnetized to the negativity, because gravity, oh God, this is the only way I can say it, gravity has a really heavy frequency. And when like the gravity of the situation, when that gravity hits the atom of the subconscious mind, it just weighs it down, and then eventually over years it just pulls you down and pulls you down and makes you heavier, and then that starts taking a toll on the physical body and the bones and the muscles and the joints, and and you start putting on weight and aging really fast, and then before you know it, you've suddenly dropped dead of a heart attack, had a stroke, you've died. And we're really not supposed to be dying young in this day and age, and with how highly tuned atoms are becoming, and how the universe isn't just expanding, it's growing a whole new universe right on the other side that people, I don't even think they know is really there. But it's amazing. It's like the universe is splitting into two and going in two different directions. And one's becoming the past universe and one's becoming the future universe. And the past universe will eventually die out. And that's why, some planets are just made of gas, and some planets are like bits of rock falling to pieces. And because it's like everything's starting to degrade so that it can go into the black holes and get chewed up and spat back out and become something brand new and start all over again, like the infinity symbol. And then eventually the new universe, will die out as well, and it'll just becoming links and chains like that of time over and over again, the expansion of time over and over again, and it'll never stop, because atoms are the front end of the sneeze and not the back end of the comet. And as long as there's nothing hitting those atoms, they just go on forever. And if they do hit something, then they just expand and become something else. demolecularize and, you know, become antimatter that eventually becomes something else. Somewhere, the atoms are always out there somewhere. And so when I go to these places, when I do my shows and that, God, I wish you could see the world that I could see. I wish you could see what I could see. Because if you could see what I could see, you wouldn't be afraid of ghosts and spirits and hearing voices and that, because you'd know exactly what it was and you would be just as amazed as I am. Because it's like, whoa. I'm actually experiencing time travel. I am actually witnessing time travel. I am standing in a time jump where I get to walk around 300 years ago or 20 years from now, and I get to walk around it and describe it in perfect detail and relay those messages back to everybody here. Oh, I can see this, and I just saw this, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And then I look it up and I say, see, look, you know, that's why everything I do is intuitive. I don't look anything up before I go there, other than places like, you know, the Dozier School for Boys and when it falls into my lap, I know I'm being told this is what you need to do in the future. But otherwise, everywhere I go, every podcast I do, every case that I work on, and that, it's all intuitive. I will know I'm going to make a show tomorrow, you know, like when I was doing them on the road. So even now in the future, like, I'll know that I'm going to do a show tomorrow, but I'm going to let my crew decide where it is that we're going to go. I've made a list of places that I want to go to, but they can also take me to places that aren't on the list, and I won't know where I'm going until I get there. And then I will see what I can see, because then there's no way that anyone can say, oh, you know, she looked it up before she went. I'm going to totally leave it to my crew. I will have my kit with me, so I'll know what to make when I need to make it. I'll have everything there all laid out in my RV, or, you know, in the van when we're travelling to the location, that I'll have the kit with me. So I'll have whatever I need, so that I can show you what I see a little bit better than how I was trying to show you before, when I was blinded by whatever it was he was putting in my system and feeding into my brain, feeding into my subconscious mind. And even though it has kept me a year and a half away from my babies, and I have almost died twice, and I have been homeless, and I have been abused by the NHS and belittled and berated and treated like crap by doctors who are supposed to be medical professionals, who just could not stand the fact that I was talking a language they couldn't understand, where I have the actual documents where they make fun of my biorhythmics, where they make fun of I didn't call it biorhythmics till I was in hospital, till I was, you know, locked up, but they make fun of my biometrics and biomagnetics. They even accused me of claiming that I remove spirits from people's bodies. I was so offended when I read that, like I had to bite my pillow to stop myself from flying into a rage. I was so angry that they had put in a document that I was claiming that I removed spirits from people, like I was some voodoo witch doctor, or like some crazy person. They made me out to look like I was crazy because they didn't understand my physics. But the thing is, they picked the right person to racially profile. They picked the right person because that shock and disbelief at what I was witnessing, the fact that I was being forced to take poison every day, where they knew I was going into anaphylactic shock every day, when I was vomiting so much that all my scars from my C-section and my hernias scars split open, and I kept asking to see a doctor, and they kept, for weeks putting it off, you will get someone, and nobody ever did, and my skin was rotting. I stank, and I had to wash it like 4 times a day, and I was stealing salt packets from the cafeteria to put into my wounds, to pour into my wounds. I've got photos, it's all up on X and Facebook and that. You can see it. You can see all the pus, and my sister was panicking. I was sending her photos. She was absolutely beside herself. She was the one that told them what cream to give me because I can't take tablets because I'm allergic to everything. So she told them the antibiotic cream to give me, and I was on it for like 2 weeks. I was like to the brink of collapsing. I was so sick. I was so ill. But I wasn't going to let those bastards break me. I turned what they did to me into a science that I've now created the start of an empire from, biorhythmics, because they took my phone from me, and I didn't have access to a lawyer or my family or my kids or anything. They took my phone off me for weeks because Chris rang up and lied in order to get my phone taken off me, violating my human rights. Even when I was asking to contact the New Zealand embassy, and that they would refuse, and then they'd say, you can have your phone anytime you want, but every time I'd ask, I wouldn't get a reply for 2 days. So I just stopped asking because I knew that they were playing a game, because some of those nurses in there were sadistic. They get a kick out of torturing the women in there. Some of them, not all of them, and I do need to express that, because some of those nurses were my friggin' guardian angels, and the cleaning staff were my guardian angels, because they were sneaking me food. They were bringing me food because I was being starved. I would turn up for the cafeteria and they'd say, we don't have any food for you. They didn't bring anything down because of my gluten and egg allergy and sugar allergy. And I would go 5 days sometimes without food, and my heart was starting to give out, and I had that infection. I would have to lay on my bed and pour the salt into those open wounds. You cannot begin to imagine. Labour pains were more enjoyable than pouring that salt into those wounds. But I was laying there, I'd have the towel in my mouth, and I'd bite down, and it would take like sometimes 2.5, 3 hours for the burning to stop. But it kept it clean. And I know this because of my dad. Because he used to tell me, on the battlefield sometimes, or, if you're out in the jungle and you get bitten by something and you don't have antibiotics and, that sort of thing, use salt, because it's a sterilizer. That's why, like saline solutions and all of that, it's a sterilizer. It does amazing things. And the pain, I just said to myself, there are men who have gone through worse on the battlefield, so suck it up, Callaghan. That's what I'd say to myself. I'd bring my drill sergeant dad out in me every time I needed that extra push. And I think that all of this with my dad and everything I've gone through, it's his way of making it up to me that he wasn't there for me when he was alive. So now I get to pay off some of his debt, and he gets to pay off some of mine, and that's his way of making up for it. And I love that. That's awesome. He's finally accepted that I'm a dork. He's finally accepted I'm a weirdo. And I think he's kind of proud of it because, he got to make that weirdo. And I just don't care what people think anymore. I have no respect for those doctors, so I don't care what they think. If I don't respect you, your opinion means nothing to me. If you don't even know who Carl Jung is, if you don't understand, the psychoanalytics that man put to the occult and the paranormal, then, you're not worth your medical degree, and I have every right to sue your ass because it's your lack of ignorance that almost cost me my life. And with all the mockery and the jokes and all that sort of thing, it's not my fault. You're dumb. You can laugh and mock and joke and point fingers all you like, but my evidence speaks for itself. There's proof in my pudding. When this goes to court and I put their asses to stand on trial, and I'll say, show me the proof that I am this. Show me the proof that I am that diagnosis. Show me the proof that this is that. Like, I want actual evidence, not just your word, not just your opinion, because people lie. Show me actual evidence that I have exhibited signs that I had weapons that night and that I was suicidal and locked up and blah, blah, blah. Show me the proof that I have delusions of grandeur, because I have the evidence to prove that I'm not. I have the evidence to prove that everything I've been saying is accurate, and everything I said about what he was doing was true. And everything I am now, telling the world about what you've done is also true, because I have the evidence. And it's not just someone's word written on a piece of paper, because people lie. Like PC Violet. People lie to protect their egos. And so I just don't want to be around it. So I choose to be isolated, because it's better for me not to be around people who don't have the balls to handle the truth that I'm going to hand to them on the plate if I know they're trying to pull one over on me. Or they are doing something that is an injustice or against the law or a human rights violation, because I can't stand anything that doesn't bring balance and peace to my universe. And that's why I have my products, and that's why I'm making my shows, so that I can go out there and take care of the battlefields, that people like my ancestors have done, whether it's been through, clan wars at Culloden, or, battlefields in Whakarewarewa, or, storming the beach at Normandy. I'm taking care of it. I've got products to take care of it. Wherever there was death, wherever there was pain, wherever there was suffering of any sort, whether it was, human or animal or whatever, I've got the products for it. Because when I can heal the planet and raise the vibration of, in the universe, it helps us grow a little bit more in the right direction. That's why my video game, The Quantum Menace, and the Battle of Two Worlds, because I'm trying to get us, heading in the right direction. And if I can do that by raising the vibration of the planet alone, if there's not a single person in the world who is interested in watching my shows or listening to my podcast or buying my products, I'm doing it for the planet, because the animals didn't ask to be put in this position, and murder victims don't get asked to get put in this position, and people on the battlefield don't either. Like, where they don't want to be a part of a history that is starting to become known for darkness and lies and deception and child trafficking and, all that kind of stuff. So I'm doing everything I can to at least heal the planet if nobody else out there in the world listens to me, because the universe listens to me and the planet does too. So, I'm leaving the people out there to deal with their futures, and I'm just going to stay in the middle, keep an eye on them to make sure that they don't go jumping off cliffs or, doing anything stupid, while I stay in the middle and take care of the past. I can tell people what is coming in the future, but I'm not going to force them to listen. Free will, everybody's choice. You do as you please. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm just putting it out there. If you don't take my advice, that's fine. Just don't hold it against me when it turns out I was right. Don't take it out on me, because people will take it out on you when you bruise their ego. But I have this philosophy that I would rather have someone be brutally honest to my face than lie to it. It's better to be hurt by the truth than devastated by a lie. It's like it kills a part of your soul when you have that realization that people aren't who they say they are. And so that's another karmic cycle that I got to break, because nobody can tell me I'm lying. Nobody can tell me I'm dishonest, because I put it all out there, man. So nobody can say I'm hiding anything, because I have nothing to hide, because I have nothing to fear, because I have nothing to be ashamed of. And I just can't wait to get my show on the road so that I can show you my world, because now I know what I'm doing. And I have spent the last few months, especially like on the last couple of weeks, like on Christmas Day and that, I've been working on putting a structure together of exactly how I want my show to go. And that music box video that I put up just before was me having a conversation with my childhood best friend back home about what the intro, the title intro to my show, the Eye in the Sky show. I've come up with what I want it to look like, and I was discussing it with her. We were coming up with ideas for like what I was going to wear in the intro and stuff. We were throwing stuff out there and we're having that conversation. So I'm this close, and I've never lost sight. Even when I was almost stopped, even when I was pulled back, I never lost sight of where it was I was heading. I've wanted to write. Well, I have been writing these books for years. I've been wanting to make these shows for such a long time, and now nothing's going to stop me, because I'm not going to die with regrets. I almost died twice in the last year and a half, and there's so much I haven't had a chance to do, and so I'm not wasting a minute longer. Memento mori. God, I love stoicism. So I guess everything that I've learned, everything that I want to say is to everybody out there who has lived a life like mine, who has once felt like I felt, where you weren't allowed to, where you were ridiculed and mocked just for being you. If you're out there getting bullied and picked on and teased by work colleagues and schoolmates and, friends and family and, whoever. If nobody watches your videos, if nobody knows who you are, if you only have one friend and it's your dog, you're not a social outcast, you're wise. You're keeping away from the people who don't have your best interest at heart, and they are not worth losing your life over. They are not worth becoming a burden that weighs you down so much you end up making all the wrong choices in life. Break the cycle and stop caring what people think. You've got one life as you. You only get one chance to be the you that you were born to be. And if that person is a man who likes to wear a dress, or if that person is a woman who likes to work out and have big muscles, if that person, tries out for 1,000 movies and only gets one gig in the back of a commercial, just don't let it be a regret that you didn't give it a go. Be the you were born to be, because it doesn't matter what your religion, it doesn't matter what you believe. As a gatekeeper, as a woman who has conversations with the voices of the universe, because I no longer care what people think, so I'm just going to say it. For a woman who has documented evidence that she has conversations with many gods from many continents and many religions, they don't get it wrong. And if they made you a bit weird, if they made you a bit different, if they made you a bit special, then baby, embrace it. Because God doesn't get it wrong. Whether you call him Allah, whether you call him God, whether you call him Jehovah, Ganesha, whatever Buddha, whatever name you put on your God, Odin, Zeus, Hermes, I mean, we could go on. They don't get it wrong. And if you're afraid to be who you are because you're worried about what people think, the only person you need to worry about who think what they think about you is your God. And God doesn't get it wrong. So if you like to wear women's clothes, or you like to work out, or you like to audition and not be very good at singing, but you just love to sing, or you want to wear clothes that don't match, or write weird songs, or write angry songs, or draw photos of guns and stuff like that, like, it doesn't, like, as long as you're not hurting anyone and you're not hurting yourself, who cares what people think? Nobody has the right to judge you, because God doesn't get it wrong. And if your way of expressing yourself is through wearing weird clothes, or through drawing, scary pictures, or writing angry songs or whatever, if that's who you are and you're not hurting anyone, who cares what people think? It's just an opinion. Opinions aren't going to pay your rent. And some people can say, well, this cancel culture stuff, it's all carried on by people who are too afraid to take chances, who are too scared to be a bit different. So what you need to understand is that the dark side needs strength in numbers. So the cancel culture thing is just a bunch of offended people who got together and decided that, there's more power in numbers. If we get more of us unhappy, angry people who can't stand the fact that we can't force our opinions on people, on everyone, to bend their will to our way of thinking, then we'll just gang up on them enough that nobody will have anything to do with them. But That's when people need to be smart and say, well, who's the one with the real problem here? Are you really that weak-willed that you are prepared and happy to live your life having other people tell you what to think? Because that's probably one of the biggest offences that's going around at the moment with social media and stuff, is that people get offended when you don't think the same as them. But isn't that what a real democracy is? Where you have the right to vote for who you want to vote for, where you have the right to be who you want to be. And we respect that not everybody has the same opinion. That is what a true democracy is, where everybody's opinion is taken into account and everybody's opinion is subject to each individual person's logic and reasoning. But it's our right to think for ourselves. Stop telling us what to think and stop telling us who you think we are. We have the right as individuals in a democratic universe to think what we want and be what we want, and as long as we pay our taxes and as long as we're not breaking the law and as long as we're not hurting anyone or hurting ourselves, what the hell's it got to do with you? But what's happened is we've become conditioned to be afraid of everything. And when you're afraid of everything, you can't make good decisions and you don't make wise decisions. So you leave it up to other people because you're too lazy to do the work on yourself to figure it out. So then who's at fault? Because it's not me, because I'm telling people what to do, and if they listen, then, but it's their free will not to listen. But just don't blame me or get angry with me because it turns out I was right. Because I know that I'm not here for everyone. I'm not here for everyone in the world. Not everyone in the world is on my frequency, and that's fine. I'm not going to be on, a lot of people's frequency as well. But let's just agree to disagree and, stop trying to mess each other's lives up because someone got a bruised ego or didn't get their ego stroked. Because you've got to start thinking with yourselves and ask yourself, why am I like that? Why is this always happening? Take personal responsibility, but then also own up to the fact that a lot of the baggage you've carried, if you really sit down and think about it, isn't even your own. So you have to be the one to make the choice whether to, drag other people's dramas around like they're your own when they have nothing to do with you, or you don't want to have anything to do with it, or, finally saying, oh my God, I just hate this job. I want to sing, sort of thing, and then just quitting and jumping on that bus and going to Broadway, whatever, just do it. Whatever it is that makes you happy, just do it. Whoever it is that you love the most, just be around them. Whatever it is you love doing more than anything in the world, just do it and don't give a crap about what other people think. Because when you get to the end of your life, or when you go through a situation like the one I was going through, you start to think about, oh, so because I did that when I was 7, that's why that happened. I had to pay off that karmic debt. Okay, that's fine. Fair enough, I understand. You gotta be honest with yourself. I should never have gotten into a relationship with that person because it did more harm than good. I should never have stayed the first time he hit me. I should never have seen the red flags. I should never have ignored seeing the red flags. I should have just kissed that black guy. Well, I've kissed a lot of black guys when I was younger. before before I got married when I was 21. I'll lock them with a bit of tint on their skin. But it's because I grew up with it. I grew up around Māori. So of course I'm gonna like dark skinned men. That's my people. But yeah, I mean, in saying that, my first two husbands were white. I don't care for the colour of the skin. It doesn't bother me as long as you love my children like they came from you, and you're loyal and faithful and accepting. Because I have had drag queen friends. The drag scene was my scene when I was living in Sydney for a bit, and I'm going to have Jewish friends, and I'm going to have Muslim friends, and I'm going to have Chinese friends, and I'm going to have Hispanic friends, and I'm going to have all sorts of friends. So he's going to have to get used to it. He can't be judgmental, because we're all going to be a bit weird. We're going to be like a travelling circus of freaks, geeks, nerds, and weirdos. Because I'm only going to be around people on my wavelength. And the people on my wavelength won't give a crap at what other people think, won't give a crap about what other people think, and are quite happy to march to the beat of their own drum. Because when I die, I want to die balanced, knowing that I paid off all my karmic debt and I've left a legacy behind that resonates with my children and my grandchildren forever, just like my dad. So you can listen to my story or not, doesn't matter, because it's all going out into the universe. And every time I talk to the universe, it makes me just as happy as when I talk to my sons. It gives me that same feeling that I have when I talk to my boys. The closest thing you'll ever get to God is the love that you have for your children. The second I got pregnant with my first boy, it was like my entire world began. It's like I'd never lived until I became a mother. And getting to them and saving them and getting them away and giving them the life that they deserve is the reason behind my whole motivation as to why I will not let those doctors and social services and my ex-husband and the police and that get away with telling me that I'm something that I am not. And I have the evidence to prove it. Because I've got children to save, and nothing's going to stop me from getting to my boys, even if I have to move mountains. I'll do it. One product, one podcast, one show, one article at a time, chipping away until it gets me to my boys. And then we are flying away and never looking back. So have a think about everything that I've said, and maybe start making bucket lists and start being honest with yourself and fixing all the things that you know need to be fixed and righting all the wrongs that you know need to be corrected, and do it now. And stop caring about what people think, because they don't live your life. They're not the ones who pay your bills. They're not the ones who get to have the right to have such an impact in your life that they get to be responsible for making you die young, regretful, bitter, in pain, suffering, unhappy until your dying breath. You're giving them that power. You could live an extra 50, 60 years if you just removed yourself from the people and things that stop you from allowing you to be the you that you know is there all along. You know that saying, sing like no one's listening, dance like no one's watching? I live by that every day now, because I just don't care, because they don't get to be me, and my story isn't their story, and they don't get to tell me what to write. So I'm just putting it out there. I can't wait to get my show on the road. I can't wait to show you my world. I can't wait to show you what I see and let you be a part of it all with me and my boys, even though they won't be on camera. But God, I love them so much. I'm so proud of them. My eldest boy is so creative. He has this unnatural talent with music. He's going to do the music intro for my show, the Eye in the Sky show, and my podcast, and he's going to do the music for the Quantum Menace video game. He's some sort of music savant. He picks up something in music that just transforms his writing and communication skills into something that's just awe-inspiring. And my baby is so smart, it's scary. He has a fascination with, like, anything engineering based, obviously taking after his granddad. He's a math savant just like his granddad. He's so smart. He says things that are so smart they make my eyes water. I could talk to my boys for hours, and they have been a part of my experience, and they've been on all my shows, and they've helped me figure out my products, and I go to them for everything, for approval. I show them everything I'm making, everything I'm creating. They help me come up with names and give me product suggestions and show ideas, and I just love it. I'm just so proud and honoured that I get to have my sister and my two sons as my best friends in the whole world. My sons just get me more than anybody else out there. They don't think I'm weird, they think I'm cool. Based, apparently. I'm based. So, if all I have in the future going forward is them, then I've won. I'm a winner. And it's all starting to become worth it. Because if I hadn't gone into hospital and they hadn't taken my phone and I hadn't needed to find an alternative way to deal with the pain of my scar splitting and my throat swelling up from the vomiting and all of that, I wouldn't have figured out biorhythmics. And now, ironically, the lawsuit is going to pay for me to put those biorhythmics into a mass-produced product that will leave a legacy in the supernatural world forever, because I'll be going down in history as the one who did it first. The one who invented it, the one who created it, the one that made the boogeymen and bad guys go away. because I just suddenly stopped caring about what other people thought and just thought this is what makes me happy and that's what I'm going to do. So, you know, if you're out there and you can identify with what I'm saying, choose you. Don't care about what other people think, just choose you. Sing like no one's listening, dance like no one's watching. And then at least you know that when you take your final breath, and it could come at any moment, you could be dead by the time you finish listening to this message. Although I hope not, but I'm just saying, you might not wake up tomorrow. So what are you waiting for? Kiss the black guy. Next week you'll see on the news, there's been a random spate of people going around kissing black guys. Oh God, I'd love to see that happen in Chicago. No, I wouldn't. Oh God, please don't go around kissing random black guys. Not without their permission anyway. Oh gosh. Okay, so I'm gonna go now, but I felt like we're in the new year and we're in the year of the dragon, and I'm Brahena Saithusa, your resident Egyptian high priestess and indigenous shaman, your Queenie Marama o Te Rā, Queen Light of the Sun. And if anything I put out there brightens up your day, then it was all worth it. So I will bid you adieu, and I'm going to make myself a coffee and put my feet up and watch some YouTube, some Lamont at Large, because he's doing an excellent job at pinpointing locations and cases for me to work on. Him and Evil Intentions. When we go to America to do the first leg of our show, I want to start in New York. So Evil Intentions is all crimes and events and that has happened in New York. So yeah, so I'm learning a lot. It's fascinating. It's all research. Places where I need to go to do cleansings and that, not necessarily cases to work on and that, although I do have stuff on my bucket list, and I will leave it up to my crew to decide, where we go for each show. And yeah, some will be on my list and some won't, so I'm looking at things to put on my list, and I'm having a ball, because then it gives me ideas and stuff. So anyway, so I'm going to go and I'm going to have a coffee, put my feet up and watch some more of these episodes, and I will speak to you later, and have a think about what I said, please, and I shall speak to you later. Have sweet dreams and Happy New Year. Ka kite anō. Mwah.